there anything left of that rink over there, Leroy?
Yeah, still
Is it?
not bad.
Yeah.
Starting to get a
Tomorrow,
few bumpies.
tomorrow will be,
Yeah, bumpy probably.
it's gonna refreeze on Thursday though.
Okay, good evening, everybody. I'd like to call to order this workshop, February 22nd, 2022, otherwise known as 22222, which I think is pretty great. First on the agenda is Dan Goyette. He's going to be talking about our capital investment and purchasing department and give us an update on that. So Dan, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. This will be a brief overview. You can stop me. Oh, that's not what I wanted to do. Anytime during the presentation, if you have questions. That's what I want. Okay, so our department is the Capital Investment and Purchasing Department. It was formed last year. It was a combination of both engineering, purchasing, and some facilities planning roles that were all spread out throughout the city and turned into one department. This is our organizational chart. We are a very small department. It's myself, Derek Belanger, who is the facilities manager and purchasing agent, and then Tony Bollier, city engineer, and Chris Bennett is our assistant city engineer. And we have three main responsibilities as a department, those being engineering, facilities, and purchasing. And I'll break it down. So engineering primarily deals with our road maintenance consisting of reconstruction, resurfacing, and reclamation projects, our sidewalk and crosswalk construction and maintenance, locations, extensions, ADA compliance, our stormwater management, which is our MS4 permit, which is our municipal separated storm sewer system. That is a federal permit under the Clean Water Act. We manage that. And our conveyance and construction and rehabilitation of our stormwater infrastructure, i.e. the pipes in the ground and the catch basins. Public Works will do the maintenance in terms of cleaning. We do the inspection work, and the rehabilitation is pipelining, TVing, cameraing, smoke testing, that sort of work. And also, as part of engineering, we do all the site plan reviews for all the projects that come into planning that require stormwater permits. We do the traffic movement permits as part of our service to the planning department. We provide a memo to the planning board with our recommendations, and they can accept or reject as they see fit. Under our road maintenance, I figured I'd give you a quick overview for those new faces around the table on how streets are selected for reconstruction, reclamation, or repaving. The city has a citywide pavement condition index. What this is a ranking from 1 to 100 on the condition of every street. It's actually every segment of street within the city. A brand new road would be 100. A dirt road with 1,000,000 potholes would be a 10, 20, that sort of thing. We also look at traffic counts throughout the city. We have, through ATRC, we have traffic counts virtually everywhere we could want. And if we want them, we can request those as part of ATRC's work for the city. They'll put out traffic counters for us and tell us what we have for traffic movement on any particular section of road we want in the city. We look at the social and economic impacts as well. If there's a new housing development, if there's a new commercial development, that also plays into our consideration. Like when Stetson Road, when the new neuroscience building or assisted living facility essentially got built. That road was already in need of dire repair, and that kind of helped push it along in the list and get done a little sooner than otherwise would have done. We also look at road classification, be it a state road, a state aid road, whether or not it's inside the urban compact, and if it's a local street. So the reason we look at road classification is because that will determine our funding opportunities. State aid road, inside the urban compact, those will all qualify for that municipal partnership initiative, which is a 50-50 split with Maine DOT. that up to a $625,000 contribution from the state. Those are competitive. We apply for those every year. We have luckily been very, very successful. They're very happy with our work. And so they keep awarding us that money. Part of the reason they keep awarding us that money is so they don't have to maintain that road, because we supply the other 50%. We also use local CIP dollars. Those would be for our local roads, our second streets, our third streets, things that aren't eligible for other monies. And then we have our federal money, which is also a competitive process, which we go after through ATRC and the TIP allocation that ATRC receives from the federal government and the state. That is a 10% match from the city, and I think last year was $2.8 million that was competitively awarded between Lewiston, Lisbon, Auburn, and a little bit of New Gloucester, Poland, but not, basically it's Lewiston, Lisbon, Auburn. The $2.8 million allocation a year it's already been spent through 2026. So it's very competitive. One project can eat up a whole bunch of it. Just to give you an idea, right now, a mile of reconstruction of road is averaging about $4.5 million. So 2.8 doesn't get you very far.
I'm sorry, $4.5 million per mile?
Yeah, it used to be around 3.5, but based on current bid prices, it's probably around 4.5. That's soup to nuts, new curb, new sidewalks.
We have 250 miles of roads in Auburn.
Centerline miles, yep, a little more than that, about 260, 270.
So basically, we're looking at
$1 billion.
1.170 or $1,170
Well,
million dollars in theoretical.
Theoretical, yes.
You know, over the course of the lifespan of all the roads, that's
Yeah.
really kind of what our long-term economic liability is.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're not going to fund it locally.
Yeah, that's more road work that'll be done in the entire state of Maine in the next 4 or 5
Correct.
years. But just
Yes.
to put it into perspective, we've got a lot
Yep.
of roads. Okay.
Yeah, we have the most roads of any municipality within the state. And lane miles per citizen were blow everybody else away. So, this is a list of current construction projects. Either they're out to bid or under contract already. The 2021 Reconstruction Project, which is 3rd and Broad Streets, is partially completed. Still doesn't have surface pavement, but there's a lot of work left to be done on that. The 2022 Reconstruction Project is currently out to bid. That's Grove, Vernon, all those little streets in between winter, summer, and Turner and Whitney, all those streets interconnecting. Some of those have been done, some of them haven't. This basically will complete that entire area. Hopefully we won't need to revisit that area other than repavement on Turner Street, which is set to occur this year, actually. So then you have the 2021 Reclamation Project, Old Danville Road, that needs surface pavement in the spring or spring-summer. The 2022 Reclamation Project, that's the Lewiston Junction and Perkins Ridge Road. It's a section of Perkins Ridge Road from the bridge headed out of town. The 22 Resurfacing Project, Skilling's Corner, Johnson, Dillingham, Beaver, and Garfield roads. Those are just overlays, shim overlay. Basically, those are roads that have been reconstructed in the past 10 to 15 years that by providing a new surface pavement, we'll get another 10, 15, 20 years out of without having to do major work out there. The Fish Hatchery Culvert Replacement Project, which was done with grant money, that will be occurring this summer. The 2022 MPI project, Mount Auburn Avenue, that is about 90% complete in design. I believe there's a public, no. Is it next? There may be a public meeting next week, but there is a public meeting scheduled. That will take the project from the urban compact line, which is a little bit beyond Whiting's Farm, all the way to the intersection with Turner Street. There are different treatments in different sections. Portions of it are simply overlays, portions of it are a reclamation and overlay, and portions of it are total reconstruction. The Route 4 boat launch area reconfiguration reconstruction project. That is a state project that was funded through the TIP, through ATRC. That is to basically, Turner Street will be a dead end at Route 4. You will not be able to exit onto Route 4 from Turner Street. There will be jug handles on either side of the boat launch area. So there'll be a protected turn lane to go towards the school and towards the boat launch area from either direction. It'll be divided so you can't cross with a small raised curb island. That project is set to bid this Thursday. It seems like it keeps getting pushed every week to the next week, so keep your fingers crossed. And then MDOT has a lot of LCP projects. LCP is like capital paving. Those are those essential Band-Aids, the 3/4 to an inch overlays on roads. And this year they'll be doing their portion of Hotel, Lakeshore, Lake Street, Lewiston Junction, Turner, Academy, Mount Auburn Avenue, Route 202, and Kitty Hawk. Different portions of each of those. If you go on the state's map, you go to MDOT, LCP projects, you can see exactly which sections of those streets are going to be repaved, not reconstructed.
Hey, Dan, real quick, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Just a couple questions, especially for the new counselors.
Yes.
When you're talking about lane miles per person, I know we've covered this over the years.
Yes.
Do you have, or could you send out what our lane miles
Yes.
per person, or lane feet, I believe, is another number you use.
Right.
Linear
It's,
feet per?
Yeah, linear feet per. I don't know if Dennis is included in your slides for Public Works later? No, okay. It's in if my old presentation was on here, I could show you, yes.
If you just get that out, I think
Yep.
that's important because roads are infrastructure.
And I actually have a comparison between Lewiston, Portland, just to give you a sense of how big we are.
And then the cost per foot for maintenance or
Yep, I
however
also have
those-
that in there as well.
Because roads are infrastructure.
Correct.
And then like Danville Road, I mean, that reclamation project, I think it'd be interesting to look at what the cost of that reclamation project is versus what the density is in that area.
Yep.
And who's paying for what, so to speak.
Yep.
And, how density can actually help lower costs. Okay.
Yep, I can get that information to you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Could you just kind of go over a 30 or 40-year cost for infrastructure for taking on a new road for a subdivision?
I do have that information. I don't have it right here, but I can get that to you as part of
Part of the same
that
email.
information. Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, some future construction projects. I have not included anything that will be presented to you as part of the FY23 CIP process or inclusion. So these are projects that are in design or set to be funded. The hotel road reconstruction, that's from Lewiston Junction out to East Hardscrabble. That is a ATRC project. Design's been paid for. It's designed. It's in right of way. Awaiting right away, so that can go out to bid. The Main Mill Broad Streets, that's the same thing. That's designed. It's in right of way. Both of those look to be fall of 22 bid dates, as it stands in the DOT calendar right now. The Mayoral Road Reconstruction Project, that has been designed. That is waiting for TIF money to build up, because the TIF will hopefully fund that project. Library Ave Reconstruction Project, that project has also, that takes all the streets over here by the library and realigns, reconfigures, reconstructs all those, and that's also been designed and ready to go. Just needs funding.
Just so council knows, TIF account, when you shelter something within a tax increment financing package, a percentage of their property taxes goes into a fund to be utilized for infrastructure improvements, sewer, water, and so forth, usually in that general vicinity.
Correct.
And this is a future guard TIF that was
Correct.
approved last year, if I
Yep.
remember correctly, for their new construction project.
Correct.
So that money will go to fund that road.
Correct.
Okay.
And your follow-up regarding the developments.
Yep.
Subdivision. Can you also provide that list of how many are not city accepted? Because we have a decent amount that are not city accepted. Just so that the council knows that some of these subdivisions are there, but we don't maintain the road, we don't plow the road. We've got quite a few that are.
I can do that.
Hey, Dan, on the Main Street, Mill Street, this is probably the fourth year. This has been pushed back, or
Yes.
out. What do you think? Is it gonna happen there, or is it another 4 years later?
It will go, it'll be under construction next year. That I'm,
Positive, be careful.
I know, that's why I didn't say positive. I'm 90% sure that there's no reason the right-of-way can't, it's been a year and a half, that it should be done. So I will say, out to bid by next summer. So, I'll keep you up to date. Our facilities. So our department also handles renovation projects, i.e. City Hall office space, hasty building upgrades, new construction, things like the public safety facility, the softball press box, energy projects. I was here a few weeks ago talking to you about all our energy projects, building automation systems, HVAC upgrades for buildings like the Hasty Building and BrainBox, which will be our new software, which will help us automate and report all of that information. We also manage all the vendor management for things like elevators and sprinklers and fire alarm systems throughout the city. And then fleet management being the purchase of vehicles, not the actual maintenance of vehicles, but the managing the city's fleet, i.e. police, assessing, public works, all of those.
I noticed you don't have the lights for Pettingill Park. Why?
Just didn't make the list.
Okay.
But yeah, we've been, we actually were glad we kind of, this department was formed pretty much at the right time in the sense that we pushed to have soil samples and testing done before they signed off on the light poles, which resulted in a change in the design of the bases for those light poles because of the blue clay that's all located out there. So hopefully they won't lean now. Before, I wouldn't have guaranteed that. So,
That's always been a problem at Pettingill.
yes. Yeah, which is one of the reasons we pushed to have the soils testing done and the geotech reevaluated. Purchasing, so our department handles the purchasing commodities, being things like power, gas, natural gas, all those contracts. Citywide RFPs, we're responsible for, if not writing, reviewing every RFP that goes out. Fleet purchases, that being the purchases of vehicles. Contract management, consultant services, citywide CIP purchases, and the ARPA-funded projects we will be, or are and will be managing in the team with Rita as our financial boss on that. So, and that gives you a bird's eye view of our department. If there are any other questions.
Yeah, I've got a couple on the roads. So would you
Yep.
say that, as far as the maintenance dollars are concerned, are we keeping up with the demand for road reclamation and resurfacing and reconstruction?
No.
So at what point would the city be above water and as far as funding those kinds of projects?
If I did this.
Did this before.
I do this every year, but no. I developed a number of years ago a 10-year plan, and that 10-year plan was, I want to say it was 60, or it was either 60 or $90 million. I don't remember. We do about a third. So our 10-year plan is really a 30-year plan. And when that 30-year plan essentially rolls over, it's time to start all over. So we'll never be ahead of schedule. Our best case scenario is we're actually in over the past, 10, 11 years, we've made great strides, especially through the partnerships with DOT, where we're hoping to get to a much closer place of doing just a lot more resurfacing projects than reconstruction projects. And that saves the city a lot of money. When we do rebuild a road, we're doing it correctly, and we're spending the money so that we don't have to spend it again. Every road reclamation project's getting fabric, every reconstruction project's getting fabric. So we're not just gonna go back in 15 years and re-reclamate the road, just repave it. We're trying to tackle it with the little funds we do, we're trying to do it right each time. And stretching the dollar as far as we can, but looking to the future where it'll be a lot cheaper next time we have to go back there.
So I feel as though, no, I'm not saying anything bad about you or your department. It just seems as though we're in a really tight spot as a city because we have so many miles of road. And fiscally, to maintain and to keep those roads in really good shape, it just, the math doesn't add up.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct.
And so, is there something that we can do as a city to make those roads something that we can maintain reasonably?
That's what we're that's what we're striving to do with each project, is that the next time it's not gonna cost nearly as much. Like the next time there's work done on South Main Street or 7th Street, those were crazy expensive projects when we rebuilt them because they were in such disrepair. Next time it'll be, maybe we'll grind on the gutter lines to save the curb reveal and give it a 3/4 inch overlay, and that'll be all that needs to be done. And that is a fraction, it's like 15 to 20% of the cost of what it would be.
It sounds like it's just an unsustainable model, to keep expecting that 10-year plan to launch into 30 years. Well, then you're missing the next 10-year plan and the one after that,
Yep.
right?
That's why the DOT has their light capital pavement program. They don't have nearly enough funds. Well, anyone who drives any of these light capital pavement projects, Lakeshore Drive, that little section of Lake Street, they're there every 5 to 7 years putting an inch of pavement down. And they'll be back in 5 to 7 years to put an inch of pavement down. And that's all they're doing because that's all they can afford. And we're trying to not copy that model by methodically spending the amount of money needed to get the road to a place where when we go back in 15 years and do that inch of pavement, we'll get another 15 years out of it. So,
Yeah, I really appreciate the work that you and your team is doing. I think that it's a very difficult position. And I know you guys are making do with the best you can, and you're doing great.
thank you.
I think the other thing, we go back a long way, so I think the other thing is you could give him $25 million and he still couldn't get any more done than he gets done as it is, really.
Right.
I mean, he might be able to put more overlay, but he couldn't do the real job to do it right.
The problem we're very fortunate here in, well, basically this little pocket, Lewis and Auburn, the surrounding communities, in that we have 3 or 4 really good contractors that give us really competitive pricing. But those 3 or 4 contractors only take on 1 or 2 road projects per city or in this vicinity. If we were to put out 8 road projects, we'd be delving into the big boys from Portland and outside areas, and the pricing would not, we would price ourselves out of the work, essentially.
Is that $4.5 million per mile? Is that with current quotes, or is that from last year?
That's current.
Okay, so
That would include like pedestrian scale lighting, underground, that would be closed drainage systems, granite curbs, new sidewalks.
so all of the last year's inflation and cost of aggregate and all that is included in that.
Yeah, we'll get a good handle on our local pricing with the 2022 Reconstruction Project that's currently out to bid. Hopefully, hopefully it's good.
Could we also, not right now, we don't have enough time, just get an update on recreation CIP expenditures that were committed for last year?
Thank you, yes. Phil wanted me to talk about that. The playground project is the big one that the council allocated $1.3 million. I've been dealing with Mark Gallagher at New England Rec, and we had a meeting last week with Public Works, and we have I feel a good handle on everything in the sense of scheduling and contracts, and Mark is on vacation this week. We'll be signing contracts next week for the playgrounds at Pettingill and at, why am I spacing here? Municipal Beach, thank you. Those will be ordered and this project scheduled. It's scheduled for a August construction, August, September. And the reason that is because it takes about a month to install and do all the work. And we don't want to interrupt the summer day camp programs for the rec department. So as soon as those are done, we'll be going in and installing the new playgrounds. And there's such a lead time on the playground that it actually works out pretty well.
So maybe a little bit later on, when we're looking at, or probably our CIP, if we can get just an updated list of everything.
Yes.
That was approved or budgeted, i.e. the
Yep.
skate park, Raymond Park in New Auburn and so forth, and even if it's just a rough idea when that's gonna be
Yeah.
started.
We'll do that. I mean,
I can
we
do
met
that.
today,
Yeah.
Diane and I and Brian met today. We reviewed CIP just so we check in on a regular basis with that, but.
I'll prepare
but
a
we'll
sheet,
We'll have
yeah.
a sheet for you. I'll give you a full update. So, a couple other things just with the presentation. Great job, Dan. I think you're seeing the real intent behind the creating of this department. When you can start seeing all those projects now being centralized and having one department where that's being worked on, this is the value that we get from it. Where sometimes it might be on a department's list of things to do, but they're also dealing with everything within their department. And sometimes those projects get pushed off, where when you have one department that's focusing on it, you get the results that we're seeing right now. So they're doing a great job.
I want to ask you something else, Dan.
Yep.
On the beach one there, we've had a beach committee going for quite a while now.
Yes.
I know you said you met with Public Works and whatever, but I would hope you're gonna have a meeting with us so that we can see where you
Yep.
stand.
Scott presented the plans at, was it this last one or the 2 meetings ago? Yeah, and they reviewed, it's virtually the same plan that they had blessed before, with the color changes they requested. But I can have them shown again and,
Yeah, well, I think you're talking about the other board. I'm talking about the board that we had put together
The work group.
for the work group.
okay,
Beach, we were the ones that was the leader of that whole thing, not so much the advisory board.
okay. Yeah, I can do that.
So we'd
Yep.
like to, I can't think of her name right this second, but
Misty.
Mrs. Roy,
Yeah, we can do it.
yeah, so we
Suzanne?
can have a meeting.
Yep.
Is there any last question before we transition to our other workshop item? None? Okay, thank you very much, Jay, appreciate it. Next up is assessing. We got Karen Scammon and Joe St. Peter, I'm sorry. St. Peter. I'm married to St. Pierre, so I get him confused. I won't hold it against you.
Okay.
All right. Good evening, Mayor, council members, city manager. I'm Karen Scammon, city assessor. This is Joseph St. Peter, deputy assessor. And we are here to talk tonight about assessing standards. Give you a little overview of sales ratios, assessing standards, what's happening with the valuations in the city, and where we intend to go. Okay. First, I'm going to let you, I'm going to explain a little bit about us. Joe and I are both certified Maine assessors, level 4. Level 4, last year or the year before, the Maine Revenue Services created 4 levels of assessors. And dependent on your years that you have been in the field and your training. So the CMA 4, there's CMA, and then a CMA 2, 3, and 4, 4 being the highest. 4 requires extra hours to recertify your license. It also requires a lot of advanced training courses that are required to be taken. And a lot of these are IAAO, International Association of Assessing Officers courses, which leads into our sales ratio study, which is why I brought that up. because we have a lot of standards that we have to follow, both through the Maine law. We are agents of the state, so we have to follow Maine assessing standards, which are in the Constitution. And we also follow the IAAO assessing standards. So, let's see. I'm just going to read this next, oh, I'm sorry, next slide, because it governs everything we do. Change that?
It's a
Yeah. Oh, being
little stubborn-
finicky?
little stubborn on.
All right. So I'm sure you've heard this before. All taxes upon real and personal estate assessed by authority of this state, which is the assessing department, authority of the state, shall be apportioned and assessed equally according to the just value thereof. That's the Bible for us. This is what we have to do. We have to assess at just value. We have to assess equally and apportion those taxes, and equity trumps all. Therefore, we constantly are doing ratio studies. We have to know where our ratios stand in order to maintain that equity. I'm not going to go through and read this whole thing. We do have copies of this if anybody's interested in reading through the whole thing. But suffice it to say, we use those ratio studies to measure equity and to make sure that we are in conformance with all of the uniformity requirements by law and by standards. This just goes through and tells you how a ratio is determined. It's a simple math equation between the assessed value and the sale price. And 70% is the overall minimum standard by law that the city has to maintain overall. And we have to be consistent, which is going to, one of the most important reason we're here tonight is because these assessment levels have to be consistent between the classes of properties. We have several classes of properties. We have residential, we have commercial, we have Taylor Pond waterfront, usable waterfront. We have multi-units. We have ag land. So we have a lot of classes of properties, and we need to make sure that we're assessing those consistently, the levels are consistent within a certain range. Joe's going to go over what we have been working on for ratio studies and give you some idea of where we stand on the residential side of it.
Okay, so good evening. It all begins with the sales, and in Auburn, we have quite a few annually. In a typical year, we have between 740 and 800 sales and transfers. We have our volumes up a little bit. This calendar year, we're on track to have 825, an average of 68 sales and transfers per month, and that's based on the first 11 months of 2021. The sales and transfers, a lot of the sales and transfers that we process aren't actually used in the ratio analysis. They're discarded right away, maybe because they're a $0 transfer, or they were determined to be not arm's length for some other reason. Could be a family sale, could be a related entity sale, a distress sale. There's a number of reasons why we would eliminate a sale from a ratio study. So typically, we want to use what are called qualified sales in our analysis. And that requires research. And sometimes that research is considerable. We reach out to the buyers, the sellers, we conduct studies, we send out surveys, we may contact a broker, and there are a number of ways where we do our sales research. So after being determined to be qualified, then we're ready to use those in a sales ratio study. So there's some sales ratio basics. When a sale is determined to have sold at market value, it's called an arm's length transaction or a qualified sale. For the purposes of assessing, a ratio study compares the current assessed values to market value. And then when we have a sale and a assessed value that are equal, we consider that 100%. It's a ratio of 1, and that's ideal. That's what we strive for. And I'm going to get into some just really nuts and bolts 101. I got a left-handed mouse here. I'm a little slow on the trigger. So a ratio 1 means the property assessment, the property assessment and the sales price are equal. If it's above 1, if a ratio is above 1, when we're talking about sales ratios, it means that the assessed value is higher than sale price. A ratio below 1 means that the assessed value is lower than sale price. So if we have dropping ratios, that's an indication that we have increasing values in the market. And kind of the description, comparing some individual sales will show you their ratio. So 4 Boulder Drive, that was a pretty good sale, right about where we want to be. A sale, 54 Terrace Road, has a very low ratio. We're a lot out of whack. And when we do a ratio studies, we're not looking at individual sales, we're looking at groups of sales. So 54 Terrace Road is a Taylor Pond sale. We might be looking at all of those waterfront properties as a class and look at where the ratios fall and comparing it to other neighborhoods in the city. And just to kind of beat a dead horse, these are the same ratios. Our goal, of course, is always to be at 1. When we're too far out of alignment in different property classes, it's necessary for us to adjust for equity so that no class of property owner is paying more than their fair share or paying less than their fair share of the burden. And ideally, if you can get everyone aligned, there are some benefits that we're going to talk about. And I actually have in the handouts, which are over there on that table, there's kind of a basic sales ratio study, a sample showing you how we arrive at the numbers that we arrive at. So if anyone's interested in that, you're certainly welcome to peruse that. But we're not going to go through that. But let's show you what's been happening in the market. Unless you've been living under a rock, you know that real estate sales have been through the roof. We're seeing sales $100,000 over what their last sale price was, maybe $200,000 over what we're assessing them at. So we're getting to a kind of a critical point where we may have to make some adjustments, and that's kind of one of the things that we're talking about. If you look at the average ratio in the middle of this table, in 2019, that average ratio was 84. It was lower than 1, so we were kind of on a decline at that point. And then in 2020, it dropped to 0.78, and 0.65 is where we're at now. These are calendar years, and 2021 is the first 11 months of 2021. And you can also see in the ratios don't always land with people as far as comprehension, but if you look at the median and average sale prices, you can see what's going on with this particular data sample. This is all single-family properties in Auburn, and our average sale price was $185,000 to $239,000 presently. And again, there's quite a wide range, and the ranges are up there as well. We had a really big sale in 2020, a residential property for $1.9 million, which was a big sale. And with that said, I think Karen's going to talk about where we're at with ratios and what we hope to do.
So, as I alluded to before, these are the residential, single-family residential ratios from 2019 through 2021. We're seeing this in other classes of properties. However, our other classes of properties are landing in 2021 around 76, 77, maybe 81 for a ratio. Those we're not worried about. What we're worried about, even though they're low, and we'll talk about that, but what we're worried about is we have a 65 for a single-family ratio, and we're comparing that to maybe a 77 for a ratio of residential 2 to 4 multis, which is another class. Because that gap is so wide, we need to close it. We need to be closer. We need to bring our single-family ratios up so that they are within 10% of all the other classes. So our goal is to have at least all of our classes in maybe a 77, 76 to an 82% range. We'd be comfortable, and that's very low. I understand that. We should be at 100%. That is unattainable at this point in time. Like Joe said, the market's gone crazy. It's gone crazy for the past few years. However, it's also widening that gap between classes, and we can't have that. It does not meet standards. So we need to close that gap, and we need to bring everyone within a 10% of each other for each class. So we're working on that. That's called direct equalization. It's a standard that's accepted by the IAAO. It's accepted by the Maine Revenue Services. It's certainly not a permanent fix. It's not one that you want to continue to do year after year. But it is a short-term fix that we will use to make sure that every class of properties is paying their fair and equitable share of taxes. And that's the goal. Keep everyone paying a fair share. The only way that we are going to bring our values back up to 100% is to do a citywide revaluation. That's in the wings. We are going to need it. It's something that the council is now going to have to seriously think about for us to be able to do that. A revaluation will be extremely costly. I can't throw numbers out there. I don't know what they will be, but that's the only way we're going to bring our ratios back up to 100% of value. And that's where we want to be, because our 100% will, being below 100% affects our exemptions. Our taxpayers are not getting 100% of their exemptions. They are reduced because of our ratio. Also, the state comes in and we give them all of our sales each year. They tell us what they believe our overall citywide ratio is based on our sales. The state is 2 years behind, so this year they were basing our overall ratio that they determined on the 2019 1920 tax year. It's going to continue to fall. They're going to catch up with what we're seeing in real time. We're going to hit that 70% ratio, and we can't fall below it or we're not meeting standards. So if we, for instance, began the process of maybe putting together an RFP and sending it out for a reval, this is not something that happens overnight. There are a lot of municipalities right now either doing revals or anticipating them in the next year or two, and there are very few reval companies out there that are qualified to do cities of our size. So I would think that even if you started this and got an RFP out, this process is going to take, like it says, up to 3 years, could be 4 years from start to finish, from when the RFP goes out, you pick someone to do it, now they have to come in and do all of the inspections and the tables and all of the work that they have to do behind the scenes, inform the taxpayers, this is what's happening, have your meetings. It's a very, very long process, and we would really hope that you would start to consider having this done so we can have some direction on where to go with a citywide revaluation. Anything you'd like to add?
Well, just like Karen said, this isn't a uniquely Auburn problem. This is happening across the state, and there is kind of a race to connect with these reval companies in order to do revaluations. And there's a number of different types of revaluations. You know, there can be hybrids between in-house. You know, there are some more traditional types of revals, which are boots on the ground, knocking on the doors, doing interior inspections. Those are very labor intensive. There are some technical types of revals that happened. Portland is a good model who just completed one like that. So, and we already have some in-house tools that are going to help us do a revaluation if that's where we need to go, that are available to us. So what it looks like depends on what's available, and you know, there are probably some creative ways to get it done. But it is creeping up on us.
And again, in the meantime, we will do the direct equalization this year and do our best to keep those classes equitable with each other.
Karen, can you explain which neighborhoods are right now the lowest ratios?
It's definitely the single family. All neighborhoods throughout the city.
So all
All
single
of-
families, all neighborhoods are low.
Yeah.
Are there any zones, neighborhood zones within zones, I believe neighborhood districts, terminology? You have certain neighborhoods, right?
Yeah.
I.e.
Yes,
the
we
Taylor
do.
Pond.
Yes.
Yeah.
But that was not a direct equalization, I don't believe, was it?
It was.
That was a direct equalization.
Can you do some direct equalization without actually doing inspections and just
Yes.
normalize?
Yes.
So is that what you're
Based
looking
on
at?
sales ratios.
Based on sales ratios,
Yes.
try to normalize, because this is a huge hit. And for those, we've had people complain that their taxes actually went up last year. Sometimes that's true in certain individuals, even though we didn't raise the levy, they got less, they only got 93% of their exemptions on homestead exemption, which is several $100s in a lot of cases.
Right.
Okay, so that is where they're looking at the bottom line. And based upon this really hyperactive real estate market, that's going to cause, even if we do our jobs completely correctly, it's going to cause their net tax bill to go up.
Yeah.
So which neighborhoods in Auburn, and you can't, I mean, there's got to be certain neighborhoods in your classification that are more apt to be directly equalized than others? Not all neighborhoods are the
so-
same, even though they're single family.
Yeah, so really, it's fairly uniform across most neighborhoods. There are some properties that seem to be a little bit better insulated, like condominium neighborhoods. Those tended to be a little bit of a higher ratio, meaning they were closer to the assessed value. We did find that some of the ag properties were lower. Vacant ag land is also something that's on our list, because that has been sort of low for a very long time. As far as the assessed value versus sales that we've seen, this isn't something, you know, we've actually been looking at that for quite a long time. So there could be some adjustments there as well. But again, that's sort of outside of the single-family neighborhood metric. You know, that's a vacant land thing. That's a different class of property that we're looking at. So we tried to compare apples to apples, generally speaking, and the data that we showed you today was single-family properties across most neighborhoods. But again, we did find that there were some, you know, like condominiums were higher, meaning other classes of properties were lower. Multifamilies, which isn't the single family, were also closer to the assessed values. However, surprisingly, those have dropped a lot too compared to 3 years ago. So we had, for multifamilies 2 to 4, we had, in 2019, the ratio was 93, very close to 1. Right now, it's at 76. So we saw significant movement there as well. Multifamily 5 and over saw some movement as well. That ratio is actually currently at 76. We didn't have a lot of great data in 2019, but in 2020, it was 8.6. So it dropped, 10% in that area. Land is a little bit less, it's harder because parcels are varying sizes and utility. So it's sometimes hard to get a good estimate, but in 2019, the ratio was 1.13. We were over-assessing, and right now they're at 80%, 0.8. So raw land itself for residential uses, or generally speaking, for the most likely highest and best use of the property is at 80%.
Highest
now.
and best use of the property.
Yeah, correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
residential? Is the agricultural resource protection zone residential or not?
That's a separate animal.
Some of them, some of the ag reses are there. Ag uses, if it's restricted, then it has limited uses, limited utility, and we assess it, so that's.
So
how-
it's less?
It's less.
It's $800 an acre.
And that
versus
will
something-
be adjusted this
Correct.
year.
That is
as
gonna be
well.
adjusted.
And we have sales that support a value range between 1,200 to 2,000 per acre.
When you say this year, are you running on this on a calendar year deadline, or are you thinking before the April 1st commitment deadline?
It would
By
be,
the April 1st.
Yeah.
By April 1st.
As of April 1st, 2022.
So this is an important ratio, I think, as a council looks at, prepares mentally for the budget. This new valuation, while increasing value, which really hasn't been increased dramatically since 2006, and the last citywide reevaluation.
2007, yeah.
Yep.
Oh,
Yep.
I'm sorry, 2007 commitment. You know, you theoretically could see, let's say hypothetically, the budget stayed exactly the same as it did last year. Value goes up,
Yeah,
we need the same amount of money, mill rate goes down.
correct.
And
Theoretically,
that's the
right.
equalization, the equitable balance based upon sales. And I have to ask you this question. It's something that I've talked with a lot of people about independently, and looking at taxes as a means, as an investment vehicle, for lack of another analogy, and maybe you all talk about this, but if I had, if someone said to me, hey, you give us $2,500 a year for 10 years, and, you know, so you pay out $25,000, but now your investment is worth $150,000, is there a positive ROI? So in other words, a house, if I bought a house in 2007 with your math for $100,000, which
Yeah.
was absolutely doable then.
Yep.
Actually,
Oh, yeah.
quite doable. And you assess that at $100,000. And over the course of 15 years, that house has gained approximately 50% in value.
Yeah.
But I've been paying roughly $2,500 a year for 15 years. Rick, what's the math? 36, I paid $36,000 in taxes. I got something for it over 15 years.
Yep.
Education, roads, garbage. But that investment is now worth 150 or 170,000. It's a
Potentially.
positive return on investment.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, the question that we're looking at, because that investment is fixed on a then value set back in '07.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Of course, the market can go the other way too, but.
Again,
Yeah.
it did in 2007, actually.
Yeah.
2008, it went the other way.
Right.
Yeah, and that's a different cover, but yeah, it could.
Right.
There's always some hypotheticals. Okay, no, thank you for that. Is there any questions? I mean, this is, we could spend, and we will spend hours upon hours on this topic.
Look, I just want to say, as a person that lives in this city, spent 10 years, 15 years or close to that since we've actually taken the big step. But the whole country at this point has taken a hell of a big step that any savings you might have had, you're digging into now to try to live.
Yeah.
So here we are now again, we're gonna go into this, and you can sell your home for 150 and think you got that big profit. When the state's done with you and everybody else, you'll be lucky to have half of that 150 to put in your pocket to invest again.
Remember, you're exempt on cap gains if it's your primary residence.
Wow, one time. Have some others and try to make a profit with them.
different. That's.
But again, this is not a good time to tell people that we are gonna value their house again at 100%. When you got a city across there and you got towns around us that are living at 80%, we'll say, or 76, and are doing very well.
Yep.
And,
we're not going to go to 100%. You understand, I mean, we're not doing that. We're just bringing them up to be within 10% of all the other classes. So the single-family residential will probably land somewhere, and I'm just, somewhere between, I'm going to say, 75 and 78%. So they're at 65% now. They're going to be raised somewhere between 75 and 78 when all is said and done. We're going to go over all our numbers again, just to make sure that everything is perfect, and that, or as close to perfect as we can be. Nobody's perfect. So they're not going to be raised to 100%. They will when the revaluation happens, but again, that could be 3 or 4 years down the road.
yeah, but still, no matter how you look at this, people are starving to death now to try to live, and we're gonna shove some more right where it's gonna hurt.
That's true.
And we're not done yet with our grocery bills, our electrical bills, our water bills, our sewer bills, and anything else that may be in the city that we offer. We are gonna take the people that are retired, especially the older ones retired 20 years ago that worked at Bates Mill and are lucky to get a lousy $700, $800 a month. And you're gonna drive them into the nursing home, or even worse, probably into the river.
Counselor Walker, I don't think this is a decision that we could actually make. It's
I
state
think
law.
we have to find better ways of doing what.
I agreed. Remember, now if the budget stayed the same, the mill rate would go down and taxes would not change, okay? Valuation doesn't dictate what they pay. It's the mill rate, it's the budget that does. So it's our job as elected officials to work within the parameters set of the mill rate and the budget from the manager and say, okay, if we increase the budget, how does that play out? We don't know what our new valuation
Right.
growth has been from last year. So I don't want to get ahead saying this is a tax increase because the tax increases happen in this body. It doesn't happen in that office.
I sat almost in the same chairs we're sitting in now when A-hole was here and said the same thing you're saying now. And how many people really got hurt by that? We dropped this, we dropped that. It went from, we were paying $33 a thousand down to 27, or 27 down to 17, and where are we again? Back at 25. 24 is something.
394.
All right, so that didn't last very long, and here we are, back here, 15 years later. We're gonna do a whole, why don't we do something like every 3 years, parts of the city, so that we stay up with this crap instead of waiting 15 years?
That's an option. That's a phased revaluation is something that we could do, and looking at certain classes of properties. And again, our goal is always to be equitable, so that we're not raising someone to a point, like if we brought someone to 100,000, to 100%, and someone else is, and another class of property that we didn't pay attention to is dropping, we have to be very mindful of that so that we're not, creating a disparity between classes of properties. And Councilor Walker, your comments are well received. I mean, we knock on doors and we have to look people in the eye and talk to them about their value. When we did the Taylor Pond revaluations, there were a lot of families that owned properties that were very concerned that they would lose their properties. And the only thing I can say is that our mission is to be equitable so that when we do our job right and we equalize properties right, that the burden is shared equally. And if we get to 100%, then the homestead exemption reimbursement is at 100%, the veterans exemptions reimbursement is at 100%, any other exemptions that you have are at 100%, and it's more fair. Something we didn't talk about is when we have a ratio, we're at 93% right now, we have to adjust personal property, we lose taxable value when we do that. So there are a lot of benefits to being at 100%, benefits that we pass on to the taxpayer, and that really is what we strive for.
Councilor Milks.
Yeah, so there's two, within a tax assessment, there's the building and there's land.
Correct.
So I'll use my house as an example. I've almost just short of a half an acre. When I look, my acreage is about $40,000 an acre. If you do my half acre and what I pay for land. And you can go online and look at other parcels of land in the same residential, not necessarily neighborhood, but the same residential zone, has wildly different prices per acre. How does that work?
So we don't actually assess on a per acre basis, with the exception of ag land. All of our land values are based on a base acre, and that varies from neighborhood to neighborhood. A rural acre, or rural base acre might be different than something in, say, in more of an urban area. So you start with a base acre, and then you have a descending value of the land that accompanies it. Parcels are very different across the city. If you look in kind of the downtown areas where you have more uniform sized parcels, you're going to see more consistency in pricing, in those parcels. As parcels get bigger or they're smaller, then you're going to see some variability because it starts with that base acre, which should be consistent. And again, there are different neighborhoods across the city that have different pricing schedules, and that's how it works. I'd love, if you have an example that you want us to send over to our office, we'd love to analyze it, because if we do have something out of whack, we want to make sure it's not.
I think that probably you're alluding to different neighborhoods. And don't think of a neighborhood as, think of a neighborhood as a geographic area where we could have a neighborhood, say Lake Street, certain area there. This is, we code these neighborhoods. We'll say that's an R1 neighborhood. We also have an R1 neighborhood somewhere in New Auburn. Those are based on sales. When we did the revaluation, we found that properties over here were selling for the same amount as over here across the city. Therefore, those land tables are based on those sales. So that base acreage that Joe's talking
Understood.
about
So-
is based on the sales.
Perfect. So let's say in those two neighborhoods, one house had a half an acre
Yes?
and one house had 15 acres. Their land tax rate should be the same.
That's correct.
So the person that has 15 acres should be paying the same per acre
No,
for the land that the person that has a half an acre.
no.
In the
Well,
same, or at the, right?
they would pay the same base house lot price per acre, yes. This base
their
house
house.
lot.
Just that-
So
just
if
an
we,
acre.
if this neighborhood has a base house lot of 1 acre and it's assessed at $40,000, then this person with the 15 acres is gonna pay the same amount of money for that first acre. But beyond that, that person is paying a different, not price per acre, it's on a sliding scale, so it gets less and less and less as you get a larger lot. That's how that's determined. But you are correct in
But
saying
that's
that the
not
base
necessarily
acreage is the
reflecting
same.
the value of that land.
Why not?
Have you, well, because if you have 15 acres in a residential area that's buildable, that's worth a lot of money.
So we value them based on the available use of that property. A single parcel is one house lot. It's not 15, okay? That's speculating it out and cutting it. Now, if they were to subdivide that, then yes, those individual acres would be worth a lot more, and potentially. But we don't assess it that way.
We base on current use.
And that's an important point, because there's a lot of misconceptions in the public about that, especially in zoning conversations. They think if they're going to be rezoned, then all of a sudden there's more value in splitting up the land, so hence their taxes go up. But that's not the case. If they did divide it,
Yeah.
then yes, it would. But right now, it's still one parcel.
Or if it went from non-buildable to buildable, then we
Okay,
would,
fair enough.
we
Right.
would.
But still buildable. There's
Right.
7 different gradients of buildable land.
Correct.
Or in the new zone comp plan. So
Right.
I got
So
it.
even if that person, that building had that 15 acres that was conceivably developable
Yes.
with work, they are paying what that market value would be for that land. They're paying what it is as is,
Correct,
As a house lot.
as a house lot.
correct,
single
as
house lot.
one house. lot.
Perfect,
Yeah.
understood.
Yeah.
Oh, great, thank you.
It's that, I've said this for 4 years. I don't think we could have these conversations enough, because they're extremely important, and the education that they provide and that you provide is greatly appreciated. I'm going to close this down right now because we've got a couple other things. But, well, we'll be seeing a lot more of you soon.
And there are some handouts over there if
We got
anyone's
'em.
interested.
I think
We got 'em. Thank
Phil
you.
has to-
Oh,
Thank
right.
you.
Okay.
And then can we,
Thank you.
Phil, can we make sure this is put online? Okay, thank you. Okay, next.
Thank you.
No, thank you, Karen and Joe.
No, I
Appreciate it.
appreciate it.
Next, we have a couple executive sessions, actually. I'm going to try to get through both of them prior to 7 o'clock. First, we have an executive session for contract agreement pursuant to 1 MRSA, Section 405. This will be the first of 2 executive sessions on that same topic. Do I have a motion?
Motion to move.
Motion, Counselor Gary, second from Counselor Whiting. Who? Rick, Whiting. All those in favor? Okay, we now stand in executive session. I'd like to call to order this regular city council meeting of February 22nd, 2022. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. We have 6 different consent items on the agenda. I'll entertain a motion at this time.
Mr. Mayor?
Counselor?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I object to the order appointing Eric Gould to the Auburn Water District Board of Trustees, which is number
I'll pull
28.
it. I have a motion from Counselor Gary, which actually does not need a second. It's just pulling off the consent item or agenda, order 28-011, 82022.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion, we go into executive session.
Point of order.
Point of- yeah,
Yeah, if you want to remove that and put it under new business, then you could go into executive
well, and we'll
session.
do it in turn under new business. Counselor.
Okay.
Okay? We have now 5 items on the consent agenda. I'll entertain a motion at this time. So moved. Counselor Milks with the motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Counselor Hawes. Show of hands, all those in favor? Passes by a vote of 6-0. And also, Madam Clerk, Counselor Moore has an excused absence tonight.
Thank you.
Next are the minutes of the February 7th, 2022 regular city council meeting. Are there any corrections? None being, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the February 7th, 2022 regular city council meeting.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion, Counselor Walker, second from Counselor Hawes. All those in favor? Opposed? None being, passes 6-0. Now we're going to be moving on to communications. And I've got a special one here tonight. Can I get Miss Betty Ann Sheets? Actually, come on up here if you could. You're not presenting, you're receiving. You're receiving. I don't know what to. So, first of all, former Representative Sheets, and more importantly, more recently, she was our interim airport board director. And I'd like to honor her tonight and read this. Just turn around. I'm going to actually ask Counselor Mills to help out. And Counselor Morin's our airport rep. But bear with me while I read this. The Auburn City Council would like to take a moment to thank Betty Ann Sheets for her dedicated service to our community by her service as interim airport manager these past 5 months. Before serving as interim manager, Betty Ann served 11 years on the airport board, several years as its chair. Betty Ann worked tirelessly during this time of transition. Betty Ann went above and beyond the call of duty to ensure that our community still had an airport and flights could continue operations. Without Betty Ann's help finishing several capital projects at the airport and working to make the land sale possible for TAM Brands to expand and grow, we would have been in a very different place right now. Betty Ann did this work while having to take time away from her own family, business, which needs all the attention of an entrepreneur can find. Looking back over Betty Ann's career, it's clear this is not the first time she has served not only our community, but our country as well. I'd like to recognize her service in the United States Army as an Army captain and a helicopter maintenance test person or pilot. And I'd like to say someone that isn't a grunt like me. I think we had an acronym for that. But I'd like to thank you and your peers for the rides around town. In 1984, Betty Ann graduated from the United States Military Academy at West Point with a Bachelor's of Science concentrating in aeronautical engineering. Obviously, with her history in the military, she brought a lot of experience to her duties within the airport. And Betty Ann also served for 3 years as a Maine State representative. She was a member, 3 terms actually. 4 years, 2 terms as a Maine State representative. She's also a member of the advisory committee for the St. Mary's Food Pantry, active at the Trinity Jubilee Center, volunteered for Meals on Wheels, and participated in various other volunteer opportunities. We all admire your dedication to your colleagues, your community, the Auburn-Lewiston Airport, its people, and just like you, who go into work with a smile on their faces and understanding today is a perfect opportunity to do something to help others. So Betty Ann, you'll undoubtedly be missed. Thank you for your 4 years of valued service to the city of Auburn, but we know you're going to continue your service in some other way, shape, or fashion. And we wish you all the best, and I'm sure you're going to really see a lot of you soon. So thank you very much. And Councilor Milks, thank you. Betty Ann, thank you. under communications, we have an age-friendly committee update. I'm going to turn this over to the age-friendly committee.
All right, Steve, don't make me laugh now, please. Hey, I want to say thank you to the Mayor Levesque there, city manager, councilors, and city staff. I'm the chair of the Age-Friendly Community Committee, and I'd like to call them team. Jan Byron is to my left here. She is the secretary, and a little bit later on, she will be doing the report for us. But I'd just like to give you just a couple information things. In 2019, the City of Auburn actually made us a brand-new program, and we kind of coached the mayor into allowing us to start this off. And then the city, of course, accepted it, knowing that it was a great thing to move forward with the City of Auburn. And it's connected more with the seniors than it is anyone, but it is open to all ages and throughout our city and other cities around us. So I won't take up any more of our time, but Jan Byron will take it from here and do the report, and she's got a few people to introduce. Thank you.
I'm not sure there's anybody.
I'm sure there is, because Belinda's sitting to our left anyway, so.
Well, Belinda, Gary is one of our members of the community, Age-Friendly Community Committee, and Leroy and myself. And I don't see anybody else here tonight who we invited people, but for reasons of the ice and what have you, they were not able to come. So, good evening, Mayor Levesque, City Manager Kroll, City Councilors, and City staff. As the pandemic persisted, our events were challenging and continued to be changed and limited, but as you will see, it did not stop us. Our 13-member committee has been meeting every month all year long, with some attending from the general public. The Age-Friendly Community Committee hosted a combination of Christmas party and New Year's Day celebration on January 1st, 2021, complete with a luncheon of finger rolls, chips, pickles, olives, dessert, and beverage served free of charge. We were able to find the previous night's ball drop from Times Square in New York and replayed it at 11:59 a.m. With the ball dropping at 12 noon. Attendees celebrated with hats and noisemakers. They played games and had a great time. On February 14th, we hosted a Valentine's Day luncheon of spaghetti and meatballs, salad, bread and butter, dessert, and beverages. We took in $370 in donations. Our sponsor for the event was John Morrison from Cure Cannabis Company Incorporated, and who gave us $1,000 toward this and future events. Beginning March 17th, Age-Friendly started showing movies on the first and third Wednesdays of each month. In lieu of the first Auburn Senior Citizens meetings, we were not able to meet during that time because of COVID. No food was allowed at this time. Masks were mandatory, and we had a 30-person maximum in the room, with pre-registration being required. Attendees were permitted to bring a beverage. March 30th, 2021, Age-Friendly held a walk in the park, a guided tour of the parks in Auburn, led by Alan Minoyan. The walk began at Festival Plaza and continued down Main Street to the new Anniversary Park. A total of 42 people attended, and masks were mandatory. On April 23rd, 2021, Age-Friendly hosted a luncheon from 12 to 2 p.m. of beef stew, bread and butter, cookies, and bottled water. A total of 250 people were served between the eat-in and takeout meals. Donations of $330 were received. At our April meeting, we discussed purchasing benches and trash receptacles to be placed at the art wall on Main Street and at the Esplanade so that walkers would have a place to sit and rest. In June, we applied for a grant through the City of Auburn and recently received word that the grant was approved. The items will be ordered, and we will coordinate with Public Works to install the benches and trash receptacles once they are received. Movies continue to be held each month. We would like to see more participation. However, The movies are very well received, and we are now allowed to serve refreshments, including cookies and popcorn. Seniors love cookies and popcorn. In June, the mask gathering rules were lifted and mask wearing became optional. Senior groups were able to start meeting again, which made it easier for us to get our event information out to the public. People were ready and even anxious to get out and do something. In July, the group met with Teresa Lamar, in-service coordinator for Aging Excellence, who spoke to us about in-home assistance and other help that Aging Excellence offers in order for people of all ages to stay in their homes. We hope to partner with Aging Excellence to help to reach our goal of enabling our elderly population to live independently. The agency also offered to sponsor a dessert for one of our senior meals. A representative from Seniors Plus in Lewiston is also on our board. In August, our movies continued to be held, but attendance was low. Unfortunately, because of licensing restrictions, we were unable to advertise the name of the movies we will be showing, and that could be the reason for the low attendance. There was no balloon festival in August, so we lost an opportunity to raise money for the Age-Friendly Community Committee coffers, as we did with the beverage booth in 2020, raising approximately $3,000. Larry Pelletier, one of our committee members, discovered graffiti at Bonnie Park while he was taking a walk, and it was reported to Public Works. The graffiti has since been removed. By having our members report anything that is amiss, we can get it addressed and rectified in a timely manner. Earlier in the season, it was identified that the sidewalk on Court Street was dangerously in disrepair. Public Works was notified by Age Friendly, and the sidewalk was subsequently repaired. We'd like to take this opportunity to thank Public Works for their responses to our requests. In September, movies continued to be shown and plans were made for our future events. On October 23rd, Age Friendly hosted an eat-in and to-go beans and hot dogs luncheon from 12 to 1:30 p.m. No fee was charged. Donations were gratefully accepted. A total of $207 was donated to go toward future events. Mr. William Pepin generously sponsored this event. On November 25th, 2021, a Thanksgiving dinner was sponsored by John Morrison from Cure Cannabis Company and David McCutcheon from Re-Energy Holdings, LLC. Approximately 200 dinners were served to people who otherwise would not have had a Thanksgiving meal available to them. Donations of $386.12 were received to help with future costs and events. On December 22nd, 2021, we held a luncheon to celebrate the holidays with finger rolls, chips, pickles, olives, dessert, and bottled water. Donations of $59 were received at this event. Unfortunately, the weather was stormy and only about 40 people braved the weather and came out to the event. Everyone played card games and cornhole and had a great time. Carol LePage, a member of First Auburn Senior Citizens, generously donated a diamond art picture to be raffled off. The winner was drawn at this event, and $99 was brought in for the raffle. Plans were made for our New Year's Day celebration, but I won't tell you how that turned out until next year's report. Respectfully submitted, Age Friendly Community Committee, Jan Byron, Secretary.
Jan, Leroy, thank you.
Thank you very much for giving us the time to report, and there'll be a lot more next year.
Well, I would hope so, but this is a pretty good year anyways, so good job. You all did seriously overcome some adversity, so congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, and Thanksgiving was great. I was there, I had some.
Mayor, I know that was a detailed report, but I just want to provide you with, for those watching from home too, so the Auburn Recreation Department puts out program materials. So this is their program material here. I just want to show, when I get to the seniors section of this, so there's the age-friendly programming. You'll see there's a lot of activities happening here. About 6 pages worth of events, activities, programming. So there's a lot that they do. I encourage people, if you really want to see what's taking place there, to go ahead to the website and take a look at the winter programming manual. That's it.
Thank you. Next on communication, we have an update from our Public Works Department, departmental overview. I'd like to turn it over to the director and the assistant director, please.
Good evening. Good evening, Mayor, City Councilors. I'm Dennis Dote, Public Works Director, and I have Scott Holland, the Deputy Public Works Director, with me tonight. We're going to do a quick overview. Should be able to get through this in 90 minutes or less for you. I'm joking. Promise we'll be a lot faster than that. So we'll go ahead and get started here. Auburn Public Works mainly consists of highway operations, fleet services, parks and recreation, outdoor spaces, and our newly acquired facilities and electrical maintenance. As you know, this is some new divisions in our department that we've just integrated, and we're continuing to bring them into our operations. Department mission statement is to provide public infrastructure and municipal services to protect and enrich the daily lives of the people who live, work, and play in Auburn. Auburn Public Works is an accredited agency. We were originally accredited in 2017. We were the first, and we still remain to be the only nationally accredited public works organization in the state of Maine. In 2021, we also achieved re-accreditation for that. So every 4 years, we need to go through that process, and very proud of the department's work to get to that achievement.
So our highway operations, we have 68 square miles of area that we take care of. We have 600 plus streets and roads. We have 237 center lane miles, 537 lane miles, and we maintain 50 miles of sidewalk in the wintertime. And then we have our citywide tree maintenance. One of our biggest operations is the winter operations, and just a little overview of that, of how we treat each storm event. We do have pre-storm meetings with the PW staff, police, fire, and school to review forecasts. We discuss equipment, personnel, and decide if a parking ban is needed. And that is discussed with police, and we have to set a criteria for parking bans, and it's usually for 3 inches or more of snow is how we determine a parking ban. Supervisory staff, we watch the weather, and we call crews in as conditions warrant. On the first initial, we have 16 salt trucks that come in to treat roads when the storm begins. And there's 5 remaining trucks that are called in when the plowing begins, which is usually 1 inch or more of snow. And at the end of the storm, when it's all said and done, we do post-storm meetings as well with our PW staff on how the storm went, talk about breakdowns, materials used, and other issues. We also usually get some criteria from PD on how the parking ban went, and it's how many cars they moved and towed and all of that. So this next slide is our winter 2021-22 to date of what happened so far. Keep it in mind that our budget is based on 20 events. That is, in the past years, that's what we've based the budget on. We've had 22 storm/events, and when I call an event, it's anytime the trucks have to roll and put material on the road. That's what we call an event. So sometimes it's maybe after a rainstorm and it froze up, or it could be, it's up to a large snowstorm. We've had 42 inches of snow so far this year. A lot of that came all at once, and we've had lots and lots of freezing rain, as everybody can tell by their driveways and everything else. 2,500 yards of sand used so far. We've used 3,900 tons of salt, and we've used 42,000 gallons of salt brine. And we've had 5 parking bans so far this year. And again, that's 3 inches or more. In 2016, we switched to salt brine. We always used to use calcium chloride. Salt, when it's put out on the road, if we wet it, it creates that chemical reaction as it hits the road, and we're able to get that process started a little quicker. So all those years we used calcium chloride. We'd use 40,000 gallons of it at $1.50 a gallon. We've gone to salt brine now, which costs us 15 cents a gallon to make. We have the brine maker in-house. So as you can see, a cost of $6,300 a year roughly on this year so far at 41,948 gallons, with an annual savings of $53,700 and a 5-year savings of $268,000 by putting that salt brine machine in. With that, we've assisted other municipalities in trying the salt brine, and that is basically 1 ton of salt per 1,000 gallons of salt brine, so we just trade salt, and so it's been a good investment for us to make that purchase.
Our fleet services currently maintains just over 100 pieces of rolling stock throughout the city. We also provide citywide fleet management support. That can be anything from the typical maintenance to just consulting with departments on some of those needs and working with them, and then also working with our investment and department capital investment department. In our parks and recreation fields, we maintain ball fields, cemetery maintenance. We have 18 cemeteries that we maintain through a variety of either our in-house staff or contracts on mowing, and also just other upkeep. All in all, APW manages parks and green spaces covering more than 500 acres of land throughout the city.
So looking to the future, and always looking at the future, a part of the effort is for recruitment and retention, and retaining our employees. So as Dennis mentioned, the facilities and electrical maintenance, taking a look at those areas and making changes as needed. Always evaluating our fleet and our highway operations. We're always looking for professional development. We are in the process of setting up a training through Central Maine Community College, where it's going to be trades training, supervisory training, and things like that. And again, we always want to invest in our employees. New technology and tools coming up. As you'll see, we're asking for a portable flagging system. It's not only for, having a short of staff a lot lately, it's the safety of our employees. By putting those out there, that will certainly help us. Looking at weather stations where we can actually use that technology to, how we're going to get out there, the timing and the temperatures and all of that, and be able to see that from home, and get guys in here in time. We're also looking, you've probably seen them on interstate trucks, but they call it a crash attenuator, so it's a big pillow behind the truck. We're patching Center Street right now, and it is very dangerous working out on that road. So by being able to put that truck behind us, we'll have some safety for our employees, not only for Center Street, but Washington Street and Minot Ave. And then the last thing that we're looking at in the future is long line paint equipment. We're always waiting on the contractor for paint. Last year was a bad year. We had the freeze up in Texas. We couldn't get paint, so a lot of our roads didn't get painted along a lot of DOT roads. They were having the same issue. So by having our own equipment, we're hoping that maybe we can get those done and do them more often to keep our painted lines on the road.
I think the only thing I'd like to add, to what Deputy Holland has said is we're constantly looking and evaluating our operations, whether it be from the day-to-day Scott talked about, the pre-storm meetings. We're talking pre-storm, we put our plan together, we have a post-storm meeting, and we review how that plan went. Some things go right, some things go really wrong, and we need to understand that so we can make adjustments going forward. We do that in almost everything that we're doing. For day-to-day operations, looking at our fleet, right-sizing a fleet, what is the right size of our fleet? We need to evaluate that constantly. So when we don't take that lightly at all, when you see these requests in our department, budgets, CIPs, or we're just even, considering these things, we're looking at what's the return on investment, trying to understand, is there a return on investment? Do we need this piece of equipment? Can we rent this piece of equipment somewhere? Can we get it elsewhere? We're looking at all of that, and we want to make sure when it comes down to that recruiting and retention, retaining our employees comes down to giving them the proper tools to do their job. They have pride in what they do. They want to do a good job. We need to make sure they have the tools to do that, and that's our job. And so evaluating every day, everything we're doing, pre-operation, post-operation, during the operation, understanding that's just something that we want to make sure we're stressing that we're doing that on a consistent daily basis. Our department is made up of 59 employees with over 650 years of combined experience. We run over, again, 150 pieces of equipment and covers nearly 70 square miles of service area. We have a large area that we cover in this department, and it's just a lot for them to cover, but again, with that experience and knowledge, I think they do a great job. We are in a unique position with our department where our staff get an opportunity to connect with the community on a routine basis. We're in the streets every day, we run into neighbors, but so the work that you're seeing here, the pictures, these are the work we do every day and gives us an opportunity to be out there and be seen and engage with our community. Then there's the more fun side of the community that we get to engage with as well. Our employees love taking pictures with costumes and, you know, those characters. But we also host a open house every year where we invite the public in. It's a great time. I think last year a little limited with COVID and such, but we are certainly looking to bring that back. It's been well received in the past and looking to continue that. We got our deputy director there right in the center placing flags for Memorial Day. And that's just another way, like I said, many ways that we get out there in the community.
And other things that we do for the community, our Sand Buckets for Seniors program has been a big hit. In 2021, we did probably over 250 buckets, because I'm sure there was some that were missed that were called in even after the due date, and we went and filled them. So that is a big hit. People love interacting with our people when we drop the buckets off. Recycling magnets is something else that we've done. Those are available if anybody's looking for some. I believe there's some down here at City Hall and some at Public Works. And our MS4 compliance, you heard Dan talk about that in the presentation just a little while ago, but there's a lot of stuff that needs to go out to the community on ways to help us with that. Part of that is stenciling catch basins, and we ask the Girl Scouts to help with that. Usually in June, we pick a neighborhood where a road was rebuilt. We go and we mark that everything goes to the river, and there's a fish that's painted on the side of it, and we hang door hangers on people's doors in that neighborhood to please watch what goes in the catch basins. And then overnight snow removal. Obviously, that makes a lot of people happy with the amount of snow that we've had recently in the narrow streets. We're able to go through and open up the catch basins so there isn't flooding, but it also brings the parking back. So just some of the more things that we do for the community.
And that concludes our presentation. We're here for any questions you may have.
Again, this is communications, and we're going to have Public Works coming back for CIP in multiple times as well. So if there's any quick question, if not, we can save them for probably about 2 meetings from now. Councilor Gary, you had something?
Yes, please. When you talk about a parking ban, you said 3 inches of snow or more. Have you ever called one for severe icing?
We will definitely look at that, Councilor Gary. I don't think we've called one in the near future that we've done that. But we could certainly look at that, because it is the safety of our drivers as well. Sometimes these streets are pretty narrow, especially when we get a little bit of snow, and it's hard going between the cars. So yes, that would be looked at.
Then the second question is, I commend you for your Salt for Senior program, or Sand for Senior program. Is it a one-time bucket, or do you periodically go back and refill the buckets or swap out?
We are currently not doing that right now. Not saying that that's not something that could be looked at in the future. Normally, we ask people to keep their buckets, and we go back and we'll fill them. But if they don't, Home Depot and Lowe's have been big contributors for us to donate the buckets, and we will start out fresh each year if they don't have one.
Thank you kindly.
Very good. Thank you very much. I think you probably have some work to do outside right now.
Yeah, I think so.
Or maybe in a couple hours, I think. Yeah. Next up on communications is, well, frankly, communications overview with Liz Allen, our communications director.
Mayor and Council, good evening. My name is Liz Allen, and I'm your Director of Communications and Community Engagement. If you know me at all, and some of you know me quite well, you'll know that I usually prefer to stay behind the scenes, helping to show off all the amazing things that the city has going on and everything wonderful that's happening here. But it is a great honor for me to be here this evening to tell you a little bit about the Communications and Community Engagement Department. First, I'd like to talk about why municipal communications are so important. Our department focuses on external and internal communications. External communications are the connections we make with our residents, with our visitors, with our community partners and stakeholders. As you know, transparency and strong communication within local government helps build trust. Trust will hopefully inspire citizens and residents to become more involved with our community. As that relationship grows, citizens come to trust city government, and they also realize that their concerns matter to us. Internally, strong communication helps our employees perform their jobs and serve our residents well. It keeps our team informed, nurtures our culture here, builds employee engagement. Our department helps staff see where and how they fit into the bigger picture. It helps support the work they're doing every day, and it helps connect them to the community that we all serve so proudly. So this is our communications and engagement team. I say this with great humility and pride. Like every city department here in Auburn, our team has an impressive amount of skill and experience, not to mention enthusiasm and dedication. We were very fortunate recently to hire a communications assistant. Her name is Jackie Hersey. Jackie is a wonderful addition to our team, and I just know we're going to see great things from her. I'm already seeing some really amazing things, and my professional life here is already better for having her on the communications team. She's wonderful. Next up is someone you have hopefully all met and or connected with, and if you haven't, you should, Rosemary Mosier, who's actually here this evening. Rosemary is our data analytics and visualization specialist, and she is undoubtedly one of the most talented and experienced GIS professionals in Maine, if not all of New England. And last but not least, we have Phil Larley, who has long been the heart and soul of Great Falls Television, which is our community and government presence on cable television. So they say every business, and in this case, every department should have a tagline. I like to think of ours as, we tell the story of Auburn. And we do. Using a variety of tools, our team works to promote civic engagement, internal, external communication, municipal transparency through accurate, consistent, and timely information. I'll break things down just a bit here. Jackie and I are the communications part of the team. We're responsible for Auburn's brand and our marketing efforts. As you can imagine, there's a lot that goes into that. We manage the city's website, which is auburnmaine.gov, and that is the city's primary and predominant internet presence. There are multiple staff members within the city team who upload and manage content on the website, and there is a lot of content. And then there's the calendar of government meetings and events, the Alert Me system, and lots more. We also manage and coordinate Auburn's social media presence. We have 15 sites across 4 different social media platforms. For example, the city itself plus our 4 largest departments, which are police, fire, public works, and recreation, each have a Facebook page, and so on across the board. Another big part of what we do in communications is media relations. Of course, the city manager is the official spokesperson for the city, but as communications director, I am in most cases the point of contact for the media. That includes press releases, official statements, press conferences, media inquiries, etc. In the event of a crisis or emergency, the manager and the chief of police handle contacts with the media. In that scenario, I serve as backup, and I lend support however I can as a member of the emergency communications team. To me, one of the most important and most enjoyable parts of my job is this next one, community outreach and special programs and events. This includes everything from creating a logo for an event or program, to promoting that event or program, to making sure we're properly recognizing our sponsors and other community partners, taking photos and videos at events, and so much more. Another part of my job that's very close to my heart is professional standards. You heard this from PW just moments ago. I manage the accreditation process for the Auburn Police Department and for Auburn Public Works. I take great pride in helping to show the world that Auburn has long-standing and deeply rooted commitment to excellence. I missed a slide. The communications team is also responsible for Auburn's Alert Me system. This is our email and text alert subscription system where we share important news, bid notices, weather-related closures, etc. We also post content to the TV monitors in Auburn Hall, as well as the electronic signs on the outside of this building and in New Auburn. Our team provides templates, forms, logos, promotional material, and support for all city departments, as well as providing support for council initiatives. Since we're focused as a city on being data-driven, I wanted to share some statistics with you this evening. Here's a look at our social media reach. Overall, we have a reach of more than 43,000 followers across 10 pages on Facebook, which I think is pretty impressive. We've worked hard to build that up. Nearly 2,000 people follow us on Instagram, another 5,400 on Twitter, and we have 701 subscribers to our YouTube channel. I'm guessing that's for these meetings. We very recently launched LinkedIn, so we're still working to build our presence there. Our reach, and this is a conservative number, in 2021 on Facebook alone was more than 825,000 impressions. And I think that's a number that we should all be very proud of. People are watching what we're doing and they're enjoying it. This is a look at our Alert Me system. We currently have more than 2,100 people who subscribe to our email alerts and another 831 who receive text alerts from the city. I personally love Alert Me because it's an instant way to connect with people that we know are already interested in getting information from the city. Our website also offers a way to report things to us. In 2021, we had 167 reported and requested submissions. This is a breakdown of the various topics. It's kind of detailed, but I'll tell you that reported is used more than requested, and the most common subjects are police issues, safety issues, potholes, and other. Sorry. I find this to be an excellent way for our team, and there are multiple people on the citywide team that respond and handle these requests for information and these reports. So I find this to be a great way for us to be directly responsive to try to meet the needs of our residents. So there's a lot here, but these are just a few of the graphics that our team produces, from event logos to invitations to social media posts, like that. I know you see these because I make sure I send them all to you guys as well. So moving on to data analytics and visualization. In my opinion, one of the most impressive parts of what Rosemary does for the city is the mapping, dashboards, hub initiatives, and story maps that she creates using Esri products. If you haven't spent some time on Access Auburn, you absolutely should. The content there is impressive. So Rosemary maintains our base data layers, which is parcels, zoning, roads, buildings, pavement, etc. She also supports, with great enthusiasm, other departments of the city with reports and presentations to the planning board, here at City Council, and to the public. She does a lot of program-specific mapping for things like TIF, for our elections, redistricting, zoning, and FEMA. She also builds mobile GIS data collection apps, this is really cool, for staff to capture critical infrastructure information. For example, street signs, real-time road closures, catch basin cleaning, street trees, fire alarm inspections, and things like that. There's also a mobile GIS application for use in our emergency vehicles. Rosemary also provides data integration from city systems into GIS for mapping and analysis. So this includes things like AssessPro for parcel information, EnerGov for our permits, and Fire and EMS for analysis of their calls for service and their run times. I mentioned Access Auburn. This is our centralized access and open data site, and it makes GIS layers available online to surveyors, engineers, and other members of the public. Rosemary coordinates also our aerial imagery. In fact, we have new 3D imagery coming this spring from a flyover, which is going to be really great to take a look at. She also serves as our addressing officer for the city. As such, she assigns addresses to residential structures and creates addressing plans for new apartments and new subdivisions. She also provides mapping data to the state's E911. For me, this next one is one of the coolest parts of the magic that Rosemary makes. She provides logistical and emergency operations support for especially our large events. So the Maine Bicentennial Parade is a perfect example of just this. In fact, Esri is pushing out very soon a national article on our efforts during the Bicentennial Parade, including a real-time operating dashboard that Rosemary put into place. So I'll be sure to share that far and wide when it comes out. So not only did she provide venue mapping and a mobile app that we used to stage all of the countless entries into the parade itself, but there was real-time tracking of our parade VIPs, like the governor, each parade unit, PD and EMS personnel, so we knew where everyone was at every given moment, as well as dashboard and maps for the mobile command unit. Last but not least, Great Falls Television. This is Auburn's community access television presence. GFTV was established in 1999 by the cities of Auburn and Lewiston and Time Warner Cable. Great Falls TV provides government, community, and educational programming to the residents of Auburn, Lewiston, and surrounding towns. GFTV airs live government meetings, a community bulletin board, and various video content. So there are multiple channels of programming on Spectrum's local cable network. I'll close with what's next. It's a fairly simple slide, but there's a ton behind it. The next time you see and hear from me in this chamber anyway will be regarding Auburn's communications plan. During our recent strategic planning process, one of the 9 final strategic recommendations was to establish a citywide communications plan, which we all agreed that participated in that as a critically important part of what we're doing. So to that end, my team will be doing an audit of what we're doing now. We're going to look at what might be missing. We're going to establish communications objectives and build an effective, impactful strategic communication plan for the city of Auburn. So that's it for me. Thanks so much for your time and your continued support of the communications and engagement team.
Thank you, Ms. Allen. Any quick question before we continue? I think you communicated that effectively.
Do you think so?
Good hire, Mr. Manager.
Great, good.
Thank you, thank you.
And I will say, this department was just created 2 years ago, I think it's been now. 1 year, that's right. Even though Liz has been here in a different capacity for quite a while. And the level of engagement has drastically improved within the city, and that is talked about daily. So again, thank you. It's a huge, important position. Next, we got communications. I'm going to start off today. We did have IT overview, information technology. We're going to move that to another meeting. We're going to kind of move this along. I do have one announcement that I'd like to make. And it is, if you remember, in November 11th, on Veterans Day, we launched the Startup Auburn program, which is an initiative that came together relatively quickly in partnership with Staples, the LA Metro Chamber of Commerce, and of course the City of Auburn. We announced it at a press conference at the Staples Connect grand opening. The concept is, how do we leverage private-public partnerships in order to bring the best of the best together and build the sense and a culture of entrepreneurship? Well, we had a contest. We submitted, and we went out and we said, hey, if you're interested in coming into Auburn, if you're an Auburn resident, and you would like to have a startup company, great. Apply, send us your business plan, a narrative about your company. This is what you get if you're selected. 4 months use of a dedicated desk in the co-working space at Staples Connect, beginning March 1, all the way out for 4 months. It's at over a $1,500 value for free. Perks include, when you have this set up, 10% discount on all select in-store purchases, 500 free business cards, unlimited meeting room space, free parking, and black and white printing. You get some marketing and communications consulting from me. Well, I'll probably draft Liz for that one as well, because she knows more than I've forgotten. And the LA Metro Chamber of Commerce. Consultation on business entity selection and questions and answers on common legal questions, courtesy of Michael Malloy from the Malloy firm. And 1 year entrepreneurs membership at the LA Metro Chamber of Commerce. That's a $200 value. And a $500 Staples gift card, courtesy of Staples Connect. So the concept here is, these are 3 brand new businesses in our community, and their success will be an inspiration for other entrepreneurs who have a dream to own and run their own business. As we all know, a rising tide lifts all ships. And this program sends a message to startups and entrepreneurs around New England that their community believes in them. And we're going to support them in everything we do, along with our partners. So I'd like to tonight announce those 3 winners. I believe we have some of them here tonight. So first, we have Custom Fit Physical Therapy and Wellness, Jennifer Frazier. Jennifer, please stand up. We also have LA Tacos, Katie Lemieux. Katie, are you here tonight? She's probably busy making tacos, because taco starts with a T, so does Tuesday, Taco Tuesday. There's a thing that we have yet to experience in Auburn, but I think we will soon. And I got to tell you, my personal favorite, because I enjoyed them over Christmas. Sugar and Spice Baking, Emily Maines. Emily, are you here? Yeah. And I didn't, I don't like to play favorites unless it's my children. But Emily has a gift, I believe, for the council. Is that true? Yeah, let's do it. If Jennifer could come up. Ooh, look. Oh, no. Pass these out right now, if we could. Stand up, let's get a picture, council. This is a fun part of the job. You guys are gonna have to hold that up a little bit if you could. There you go. Everybody? Ready? Are those soft baked chocolate chips?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And it's Auburn's birthday today.
Oh, and I'm sorry. And this is, I have to say it, today is our birthday as a city of Auburn. So we were founded in 1869, so that makes us 153 years old today. So it's a perfect day to announce this.
And their birthday cookies.
Birthday cookies. Perfect. Awesome. Thank you. And everybody, congratulations.
We expect tacos at the next Monday.
Yeah, tacos next meeting.
Next,
And then custom physical therapy. We're not sure what you're giving us, but,
and my shoulders.
you know, yeah, skiing accidents. So thank you again very much. I'm just going to open up. Is there any urgent communication from the council that they'd like to share on events happening within the city? And being okay. We're going to, Mr. Manager, I'm sorry. All set? Okay. Let's see. We're going to open this up to the first open session of the night. Members of the public are invited to speak to the council about any issue directly related to city business which is not on tonight's agenda. Please step up to the podium, speak for about 3 minutes. Give us your name and address if you could. Is there anybody for our first open session of the night? None being. We're going to bring it back, close open session, go on to unfinished business. And here we go. First, we have an ordinance 0502072022, adopting a disorderly house ordinance. This is the second reading. Do I have a motion?
Motion to move.
Second.
I have a motion from Councilor Walker and a second from Councilor Hawes.
Yeah, it's all right.
I'm going to open this up to the public. Is there anybody from the public that would like to comment? None being, I'll bring it back to the council. Council, debate, discussion, second reading? Okay, I'll ask for a roll call vote at this time.
Counselor Walker,
Yes.
Counselor Staples,
Yes.
Counselor Gary,
Yes.
Counselor Whiting,
Yes.
Counselor Hawes,
Yes.
Counselor Milks,
Yes.
And the order passes by a vote of 6-0, second reading. Next is ordinance 0602072022, amending the Auburn Code of Ordinances, Chapter 2, Administration, Article 5, Boards, Commissions, and Committees, by striking Division 5, Conservation Commission, and Division 8, Agricultural Committee, and replacing Division 5 with a Sustainability and Natural Resource Management Board. This is a second reading, and do I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Councilor Hawes, second by Councilor Walker. Okay. Is there anybody from the public that would like to comment again on this? None being, I'll bring it back to the council. I just want to, one question before we open this up. Sue, did we amend the language per the amendment on the first reading with Councilor Whiting?
yes, and
Okay.
it's in there in the packet.
Okay, I just got it. Councilor Whiting, do you have a chance to review that amendment?
Yeah, that's good.
You're good with it?
Yep.
Okay, very good. Is there any debate or discussion on this? None being, I'm going to ask for a roll call vote.
Counselor Walker,
Yes.
Counselor Staples,
Yes.
Counselor Gary,
Yes.
Counselor Whiting,
Yes.
Counselor Hawes,
Yes.
Counselor Milks.
Yes.
Passes by a vote of 6-0, second reading. We're going to move on to new business. And I'm going to go with the agenda new business to begin with, and then we'll move into the consent agenda that was pulled off. First, we have Order 30-02222022, amending Tambrands 2 Municipal Development and Tax Increment Financing District. This is a public hearing and a vote. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Councilor Gary, second from Councilor Walker. Open this up to the public for comment. Anybody from the public like to speak on this? Bring this back to the council. Council, any discussion? Everything's in your packet. It's a renewal of an existing tax increment financing program. Okay, very good. I am going to ask for a vote on this by show of hands. All those in favor? Approved, 6-0. Next is Order 07-02222022, adopting a moratorium on development proposals involving public safety facilities, detention facilities, or correctional facilities at a site on which one currently does not exist. This is a public hearing and its first reading. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion, Councilor Milks. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Councilor Whiting. I'll open this up to the public. Anybody in the public like to speak on this tonight? None being, I'll bring it back to the council. Council, and before I do that, I'm going to turn it over to the manager if he has anything to state.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. Let's just give you a little background as well as to the public. The city's current ordinances governing land use, zoning, and site plan and special exception review do not adequately or specifically address public safety facilities, detention facilities, or correctional facilities. The City of Auburn has not had to consider the impacts of these types of facilities for over 50 years. These are not the type of facilities that are built frequently, and most of the time, any expansions stay on the current property sites because a great deal of consideration was given to those unique locations. I want to make sure it's clear to the public that this moratorium is not a decision on if the sheriff's office or the jail needs new or renovated space. It is also not about Auburn saying this is not in my backyard. The sheriff's department and the jail is already in our yard, and they have been in Auburn's yard for over 150 years. However, there is a legitimate impacts to a residential neighborhood, a major corridor, or local businesses when a public safety facility or a jail is newly constructed. The 5 current facilities in Auburn, which house the sheriff, the police department, fire departments, and jail services, are well-established businesses, Businesses have moved into these areas knowing the facility is there, or we had a very open and public process in determining the locations. We recently spent time assessing properties for our own public safety facility and determined the best option for the City of Auburn was to consider to expand at our current sites. This has been a very open public process and will go to the voters for approval. In this case, there was no public process, and we have received negative feedback from the residential neighborhood, and the business community about the location. We need to take time to ensure our zoning ordinance will properly address the impacts this type of government service brings to a neighborhood and our current infrastructure. The moratorium that's brought before you is 180 days, and there is an option for a 180-day extension if needed. I can answer any questions regarding the moratorium if you like.
Council, first reading, second reading need to pass. Any questions at this time? None being, sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Now, you stated that this is for 180 days and can be renewed for another 180 days. If we can come to some sort of resolution to this and come up with everything to be satisfied, can the council vote for a shorter time period? I'm just asking for point of information.
Sure. What will take place is that the staff will review the zoning ordinance. There'll probably be discussions at planning board. That process then will be submitted within an ordinance revision if one is needed. If during the review process there's no recommendation for changes, it'll come back to lift that moratorium, or the ordinance will be brought forward for adoption.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions or debate on this? Councilor Staples.
Yes, thank you. The language of this moratorium concerns me a little bit because the City of Auburn is in the middle of a process in which we are looking to build a public safety facility. I noticed that the language here at the end of the moratorium says, at a site at which one currently does not exist. That would exempt Auburn's public safety facility from this moratorium. And I feel, as a city councilor, I feel that it doesn't make sense to make rules for one body that don't apply to us. I don't support this as written. I would like to make a motion to strike the words "at a site on which one does not currently exist" from this, every place where it exists inside of this moratorium.
I have a motion on the floor. Do I have a second? None being?
I'll second it.
We got a second from Councilor Gary. I'm going to open this up for internal conversations. I'd like to start off too. I just want to remind everybody the differences between within process. We had a thorough process that has extended out well over a year on this. Predates yourself, Councilor Staples, but it's public. We nominated members of the public to actually be on this planning committee after we looked at sites, after we looked at proposed budgets. So this whole process, Mr. Manager, is about 1.5 years in the making, longer? Yeah. About 1.5 years. So, and they're existing buildings that are same use. There will be no changes between fire to police, though there will be an addition of police in this initial proposal on Minot Avenue. Now, mind you, still, even though all this goes through and, you know, the results of this public, transparent process comes forward, it still has to go to planning board. It still has to go to the, you know, council for appropriations. So there is multiple steps, multiple public engagement. So I just want to make sure that we're clear. This isn't, you know, we can do something and they can't. Nobody can do anything until proper authority by this board is actually given, and the planning board, I should say, as well. So I just want to make sure everybody's clear on those differences. Mr. Manager, anybody or anybody else have anything to add on that?
Yeah, I guess that was the only point I was concerned about when Dana said that. It kind of alarmed me that there wouldn't be planning board review, but as long as there's planning board review, then I'm okay.
I mean, our high school actually had to get planning board review.
Right.
So everything gets planning board review. Is there any other questions or debate on the motion to amend the order? Just the amendment as proposed? None? I'm going to ask for a vote on just the amendment, the motion to amend, excuse me. All those in favor of amending the order and striking the non-existing paragraph at the end of the moratorium, please raise your hand. All those opposed to the amendment? Fails by vote of 4-2. Okay, now we have the initial motion on the floor, the initial order, excuse me. Now, is there any other comments on the moratorium order?
I have a question for Mr. Manager. What's the tax implication of are we discussing the moratorium, just the moratorium, or the facility itself, the location?
Just the moratorium.
Just the moratorium. Okay.
I think it, yeah. So is there any other comments or questions? If not, I'm going to ask for a roll call vote at this time.
It's not open to the public for discussion?
We already did it. I asked if we had anybody from the public who would like to speak, and nobody did.
Mr. Mayor, I'm sorry, I was invited, I assumed due to my office by the city manager to attend tonight because this was going to be discussed. While I'm a resident of Auburn, I thought it was going to be a side conversation, so I didn't stand up at this time. I apologize. I can be
Chair,
brief.
just so you know, this discussion, if you could speak it on the mic, though, I want to make sure everybody can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, but
Okay.
everybody
All
that's
right.
out on the YouTube. So, yeah, we did open it, obviously, to public comment, but.
It's not a comment. It's a comment, but I'm not going to speak at bother. I'm not going to speak in opposition or comment on what you're doing. But I would like to add, in dealing with the agency that we contracted to go over this property search for the past year and identified this parcel and went through everything involved, probably like you did as far as site location and feasibility for our agency. Before we made the purchase, and reaching out to them today to let them know what was going on, because we had to pause the next phase, which was to bring the development proposal to the planning board. I didn't want to spend the money involved if we were going to get shut off until we consulted with the legal counsel. At this time, Harriman and Associates, a local company that we've used, is actually looking forward, if this happens to pass, to working with the City of Auburn to come up with a whatever it is you're looking for to address your concerns so we can develop the property after purchase.
Fair enough, thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, and we just don't even know what the concerns totally are yet, obviously.
Well, and another thing, I'd like to, we're not building a jail. I keep hearing that. I keep getting confronted with it. There's no jail being proposed.
But
I made that clear to the county manager when I met with him Thursday morning. And the other thing I'd like to correct you on is, because we're purchasing a facility on land and we're repurposing it, we worked with Susan Collins' office, our attorney, National County Commissioners Association, and the Department of Treasury. This property particularly, it was identified prior to, but we discovered ARPA funding applies. So if we aren't allowed to purchase this property, when we look at other land available, it will be totally borne on the taxpayers, where this purchase allows us to relieve them of the initial $4 million investment into the property.
So
Because we can't build for construction.
Just to clarify, real quick, I want to make sure people understand.
Yep.
So your ARPA funds, they need to be allocated by 2024.
Our ARPA funds for this purpose, we can use to purchase a facility for COVID mitigation issues. And you know, we're operating at 9,000 square feet. We need over 20,000 for our operation. So when we worked with the Department of Treasury, National County Commissioners Association, the attorney we contracted just to double check everything, working with Susan Collins' office, the language had some, it was somewhat vague, not very specific, but one thing that was clear is we can purchase a facility, but we can't construct a facility. And at that point, we can't purchase land and argue a land acquisition would solve the mitigation issues because we can't operate on a piece of dirt. But we can operate on a facility. So this qualified for. So
The only thing I needed clarification on was that you made it sound like you wouldn't be able to use those opera funds if you found another location. You have to allocate those funds by 2024 and spend them by 2026.
And we were fortunate to find one location so far.
With an existing
Yeah.
building. So and that's but I want to make sure that everybody knows, we are not discussing the pros or cons of a new sheriff's office.
I just wanted to advise the
Sheriff?
misgivings. Yeah.
Yeah, please, thank you. We're not here to advocate or not advocate the pros and cons of a sheriff's office or a jail. And we're just going off the information that we read that was quoted from you in the Lewiston Sun Journal on Thursday of last week. It was there, and if we had conversations prior to the announcement to the public, in that list of agencies that you talked with, not once did the City of Auburn appear, this might probably have been avoided.
Always
So-
a phone call away, sir.
Yes, yeah, you are. Thank you, Sheriff, for the
Thank you.
evening, okay? For your comments. I'm going to bring this out back to the council. Council, do we have any debate? No? Okay, so I'm going to ask for a roll call vote at this time. Madam Clerk?
Counselor Walker,
Yes.
Counselor Staples,
No.
Counselor Gary,
Yes.
Counselor Whiting,
Yes.
Counselor Hawes,
Yes.
Counselor Milks,
Yes.
Okay, the first reading passes by a vote of 5-1. Okay, we're going to be
4-1.
moving on. I have, hold on one second.
Oh, sorry.
So we have a item number 28-011-82022. Let's pull it from consent. This is appointing Eric Gould to the Auburn Water District Board of Trustees with a term of expiration of 3/1/2026. This is now on the floor. Do I have a motion?
Well, a motion to go in executive session.
At first, point of order. At first, we need to have a motion to bring this onto the floor, and then motions can be made for executive session. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
I got a motion from Councilor Gary. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Councilor Hawes. Very good. I'll bring this out to the public. Is there anybody from the public that'd like to speak? Everybody disappeared. Bring it back to the council. Council?
I'd like to bring it to executive session. Motion.
I have a motion to enter into executive session in order to discuss a personnel matter. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Councilor Gary. All those in favor of entering into executive session, please raise your hand. We are now in executive session. We'll be back, and we do have action to follow. Not much, but we do. So. Come on, pen.
You're on.
Oh, thank you. And now declares out of executive session.
That's another one Phil brought up.
Okay. We do have a motion on the floor, and it's just to remind everybody, in case you're just tuning in, excuse me, hold on, this is motion on order 28-011-82022, appointing Eric Gould to the Auburn Water District Board of Trustees. Is there any public debate from the council? Anything? Nothing? Okay, I'm going to close debate. This time, I'm going to ask for a vote.
Mr. Mayor,
Counselor, I close debate.
this is going to be a motion.
I'm calling a vote right now. I just
No.
called the vote.
Mr.
It's a
Mayor, I
privileged motion
challenge
when I
your
call the
vote.
But go on, Counselor Gary, go. Go, I'm gonna allow this breach of Robert's rules. Go, please.
Mr. Mayor, I would like to make the motion that we replace the nomination of Eric Gould with Casey Geiger to be appointed to the Auburn Water District Board of Trustees.
I have a motion on the floor to replace Eric Gould with Casey Geiger on the Auburn Water Board of Trustees.
Second.
I have a second for Counselor Walker. Any discussion? I'm going to ask for a vote. All those in favor of replacing Eric Gould with Casey Geiger, please raise your hand. All those opposed? I will break the tie. I am opposed. Vote 4-3. Initial motion, order is back on the floor. Ask for a vote at this time. All those in favor of Eric Gould for Auburn Water District, please raise your hand. All those opposed? I'll break the tie. I support. Passes 4-3. We'll now go to the open session, last open session of the night. Is there anybody in the public that would like to speak about any business that's not on tonight's agenda? Please step up to the podium, give us your name and address, and limit your comments to 3 minutes. There is no one, and I will bring it back to the council. Now we're going to go on to reports. Mayor's report. Starting first and foremost, school committee, finance, and curriculum meetings. Next meeting will be on March 2nd. It's a Wednesday, so we're off. We're not on the same weeks as city council at this point due to the holiday schedule and just the way the calendar is falling. Normally we are the first and third, but now we're just off a bit. Hopefully we reset soon. I will say the school committee is taking up some pretty significant issues. A lot of people have asked about mask wearing policies within the school department. That's being taken up as well on March 2nd. So we have our health and safety team meeting on March 1st, I believe, and then we'll take it up the next day. So we'll be taking everything and all bits of information and data that's available and making some smart decisions next week. That's it for reports on my end. We'll turn it over to the councilors. Councilors, do we have any reports starting with Councilor Gary?
None at this time, thank you.
Just working our rank. Councilor Whiting?
Nothing at this time, thanks.
Councilor Hawes?
All set, thank you.
Councilor Milks?
Nope.
Mr. Manager?
All set, thanks.
Councilor Walker?
Yeah, meeting Thursday night for Neighborhood Watch meeting, 6th Street Congregational Church, 6 o'clock. Open for anyone that would like to come, talk about Auburn, things that are happening, things that ain't happening. It's open.
Good. Councilor Staples?
Nothing tonight.
Okay. Entertain a motion. Oh, excuse me. We're going to skip through the finance director reports. Ms. Eastman can't be here tonight, so we'll handle that during our next meeting. Okay? We have executive sessions on economic development pursuant to 1 MRSA Section 405. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Councilor Gary, second? Second, Councilor Whiting. All those in favor? Opposed? None being. We'll now stand in the executive session. We have no action following our next 2 executive sessions. We'll go straight to adjournment.